So let's start with maybe the background of Jews and the adult entertainment industry, either from the filmmaking perspective, management perspective, active perspective, viewing perspective. Share.
Jews in the adult industry, there's a lot of them. It was pretty much founded by the adult industry, or I'm sorry, the Jews. The adult, I had a couple beers. The adult industry was pretty much founded by the Jews. Basically, in the early 1900s, the German Jewish immigrants came in, and when they were trying to get into different industries, there was a lot of anti-Semitism where they couldn't get into normal lines of work.
Atención guionistas, que aquí hay películas.
So they gravitated towards the porn industry because it's like kind of the seedier cousin of the Hollywood industry, which had already been controlled by the Jews. Basically, they pretty much just took it over. If you look at the big stars, so basically back in the 1960s, 70s, it was founded by people like Danny Mamet, Danny Skura, and then later in the 80s, the godfather of the modern day porn industry, his name was Reuben Starman, who was actually an Orthodox Jew. He owned over 200 bookstores all around the country. He's actually my godfather, which is kind of weird. Reuben Starman, what the Jews did pretty much was they revolutionized the adult industry and made it their own. So there was no space for anti-Semitism, and they basically controlled everything.
Vale.
So back in the 80s, the only way you could get pornography was to go through someone like Reuben Starman, and he controlled, all of his stores and all the stores that they actually had to pay him a tax to carry his product. And later, what the Jews did, they created the manufacturing side, which is the replication, the printing, because back in the day, if you wanted to make a VHS or a beta tape or whatever, you couldn't go down to Kinko's or any mainstream printer and be like, I want to print, Gang Bang My Mom #3 or something. I'm keeping it clean.
Yeah, no.
So what they did was they created all of these companies that manufactured DVDs and VHS and beta and printing, and all the companies pretty much had to go through the Jews. Reuben Starman, actually, eventually he died in prison. They tried to get him for obscenity back in the 80s, which was a big thing. But he eventually died in prison because of tax evasion, because he didn't want to pay taxes. So that's, it happened.
Yeah, Jews and money.
Yeah, Jews and money is the next taboo talk.
So let's follow that up with the relationship between the Jews who got involved in this industry because they couldn't get involved in mainstream Hollywood, and their relationship with non-Jews then who were in this industry. Was there a stigma? Because while they did control a variety, historically control a lot of this industry, was there a stigma about those who were actively, let's say, making the films about being Jewish in this movie? Was there a stigma within it? And was there a stigma from other Jews who were in the community? And where is that at today?
Let me just answer that question with, back in the 70s, the majority of the male porn performers were Jewish, and the majority of the female performers were Roman Catholic. But it's kind of funny because those guys came into the industry, and I actually asked a couple of them, because I asked Ron Jeremy, and I was like, why did you guys, decide to go into the porn industry? Like, what was it that drew you? And besides, like, the obvious, they're like, I got to fuck Roman Catholic chicks and fulfill every fan. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You're okay.
So, I think the Jewish performers, they've always been really prevalent in the industry, and even now, Ron Jeremy is still, like one of the most well-known performers. James Dean, Joanna Angel, there's Daphne Rosen, there's a bunch of them. And for the most part, the business side is still controlled by Jews. You have Steve Hirsch, who runs Vivid. You have Steve Orenstein, who runs Wicked. You have me, who runs the biggest porn company in the world. Second biggest. But for the most part, all the business owners are pretty much Jewish, or have Jewish ties, or at some point worked for a Jew. I forgot what the question was, but I hope I answered it.
You did. You're good.
Yay!